Today, I'm going to recap a movie called Ransom. Let's get started. The movie begins with Tom Mullen, a wealthy airline executive, hosting an upscale party for his latest commercial. His wife, Kate, and son, Sean, are by his side.
We would fly anywhere.
We're like the yellow cabs in the sky.
The celebratory mood is dampened when a reporter confronts Tom about Jackie Brown, a union leader Tom allegedly bribed to prevent a strike, an act that sent Brown to prison. Though security quickly removes the reporter, the incident leaves Sean feeling uneasy, questioning why people are always angry with his father. Kate is also deeply concerned, warning Tom that the scrutiny currently on him will eventually target their family. Tom, however, dismisses her fears. The following day, at a science fair in New York City sponsored by Kate, the family's worst fears come true. While Kate gives her speech and Tom is distracted by guests, a man named Cubby stalks the fairgrounds. Seizing a moment when Sean is left alone, Cubby kidnaps the boy. Panic sets in as Tom and Kate search the crowds,
Sean?
eventually making a desperate announcement over the stage microphone, but Sean is gone. Back at home, Tom receives an email on his laptop showing a video of his son in captivity. The kidnappers demand $2 million within 48 hours and warn that if the FBI or police are involved, Sean will be killed. Despite the threat, Kate convinces Tom to contact the FBI. Agent Lonnie Hawkins arrives with a task force, turning the Mullen home into a high-tech command center. Tom immediately voices his suspicion that the imprisoned union leader, Jackie Brown, is behind the plot as an act of revenge. Meanwhile, in a dark hideout, a terrified Sean is shackled by Cubby. Agent Hawkins, Looney, tries to reassure Kate by explaining the success rates of these cases, though he admits they can turn dangerous. The tension spikes when a phone call comes through, but after the team scrambles to trace it, it turns out to be a false alarm from Tom's secretary. Meanwhile, at the hideout, we learn the abduction is a group effort. Cubby is joined by Maris, the server from the party, and Clark, Cubby's brother. Maris berates Cubby for getting too close to the boy. Seeking answers, Tom and Agent Hawkins visit Jackie Brown in prison. Tom accuses him of orchestrating the plot, but Jackie is insulted and enraged. He lashes out at Tom before being restrained by guards. The focus then shifts to a detective named Jimmy Shaker. While at a grocery store, he spots Cubby buying children's cereal. Jimmy follows him home, but in a shocking twist, it's revealed that Jimmy is actually the mastermind behind the abduction. He reprimands Cubby for being careless, explaining that buying kid-specific food is an easy way to get caught. To complicate matters further, we discover that Jimmy and Maris are secretly romantically involved. The next day, Jimmy uses a voice-modulating device to call Tom, demanding he bring the $2 million to a specific location on 96th Street. Jimmy warns Tom again about involving authorities, though secretly, he is already aware the FBI is listening. Thanks to his team's clever routing, the FBI is unable to trace the call's origin. Before Tom leaves with the money, the FBI fits him with a hidden microphone to track his every move. However, the mastermind is one step ahead. Jimmy calls Tom and directs him to a public swimming pool where a locker key is hidden at the bottom. Tom is forced to dive in to retrieve it, which immediately destroys the FBI's tracking equipment due to the water, exactly as Jimmy intended. After opening the locker, Tom finds a fresh set of clothes and a new bag for the money. Following instructions, he changes, transfers the cash, and slips out through a back exit into a designated car, successfully losing the FBI agents tailing him. As Tom drives, Jimmy follows him and calls again. When a desperate Tom asks, "Why me?" Jimmy coldly replies that since Tom has always used his wealth to buy his way out of trouble, he can do it one more time for his son's life. Meanwhile, the crew prepares for the handoff as Clark provides Cubby with a motorcycle to finalize the collection of the funds. While the drop-off is in motion, Cubby quietly tells Clark that once they have the cash, they plan to ditch Jimmy and start their own lives. Jimmy directs Tom to a specific highway exit where the exchange is supposed to take place. When Tom arrives, Cubby pulls up on his motorcycle, brandishing a weapon and demanding the bag. Tom hands it over and desperately asks for the address where his son is being held, but a confused Cubby realizes he doesn't have that information. Jimmy never gave it to him. A struggle breaks out between the two men, but the FBI, having relocated Tom via helicopter, opens fire. Cubby is fatally wounded. Clark and Jimmy watch the chaos unfold from a distance, realizing the plan has gone off the rails. As Cubby takes his final breath, he tries to speak, but dies before he can give Tom any clues. Back at the house, a furious Tom confronts Agent Hawkins, Looney, blaming the FBI's interference for the loss of his only lead. Hawkins defends the team's actions, claiming they acted to protect Tom's life. Meanwhile, the situation escalates as news of the abduction leaks to the press. Media crews swarm the Mullen home, broadcasting the family's nightmare to the entire world. Kate begins to spiral into a total emotional breakdown, her hope fading as the sun sets. Clark is devastated by the loss of his brother and, in a fit of rage, threatens to unalive the boy and end the whole ordeal. Jimmy violently shuts him down, insisting they must stick to the plan to ensure the payoff makes their risks worthwhile. However, a new complication arises. When Maris goes to feed Sean, the boy recognizes her from the party at his house. At the Mullen home, Tom comes to a chilling realization. He tells Kate and Agent Hawkins that he believes the abductors have no intention of returning Sean, whether the money is paid or not. He explains his reasoning. The man at the drop-off, Cubby, had no idea he was supposed to provide an address in exchange for the cash. Tom concludes that the mastermind is simply playing them. Despite Agent Hawkins' insistence that paying the demand is still the statistically best way to save a life, Tom no longer trusts the system. Jimmy reaches out to Tom once more, providing a new location for the payoff and issuing a final, lethal warning. If the authorities interfere again, Sean will be gone for good. However, Tom has reached a breaking point. In a move of incredible bravery and massive risk, he tells Jimmy he believes Sean is already gone and hangs up the phone to see how the mastermind reacts. The gamble works. Desperate to keep the deal alive, Jimmy calls back almost immediately and lets Sean speak for a brief second to prove he is still okay. Once Tom hears his son's voice, Jimmy provides the address for the next meeting, and Tom agrees to the terms. While stuck in traffic and seeing his son's face on every news monitor, Tom has a radical change of heart. When Jimmy calls to check on his progress, Tom tells him the plan has changed. Watch Channel 5 in 1 hour. Tom rushes to the news studio and makes a shocking live announcement. Instead of paying the $2 million to the abductors, he turns the ransom into a bounty. He looks directly into the camera and tells the world and the kidnappers that he will pay $2 million to anyone who turns in the person who took his son. He vows to run this ad every single day until justice is served. Watching from a bar, Jimmy is livid, and his crew begins to panic as they realize they are now the most hunted people in the city. When Tom returns home, a devastated Kate confronts him, terrified that his gamble will cost Sean his life. Tom stands his ground, insisting that the only way to save Sean is to take away the kidnappers' incentive to hide. Meanwhile, Jimmy returns to the hideout to find it empty. He tracks down Maris and Clark just as they are about to harm Sean to get rid of the evidence. Jimmy stops them, realizing that if the boy is gone, they lose all their leverage and their only hope of surviving the bounty Tom has placed on their heads. Agent Hawkins, Looney, tries to pressure Tom into withdrawing the bounty, insisting that paying the demand is their only real shot. Tom refuses to budge. Seeing that Tom won't listen, Hawkins turns to Kate, warning her that her husband's gamble is putting their son in grave danger. He even reveals the truth about Tom's past dealings with Jackie Brown to shake her confidence in him. While Kate initially stands by Tom, her resolve is tested when the public begins to turn against them, with many people on the news saying they would have just paid the money. The situation turns terrifying when Kate receives a mysterious letter directing her to an abandoned church at 2 a.m. She goes alone and is confronted by a masked Jimmy. He brutally threatens her, demanding she convince Tom to drop the bounty and leaves her with a bloody t-shirt belonging to Sean. When Tom sees what happened to Kate and the state of the shirt, he makes a move that shocks everyone. Instead of backing down, he walks outside to the wall of reporters and doubles the bounty. He announces that the reward for the perpetrator's head is now $4 million. Inside the hideout, Jimmy and his team are paralyzed with stress, realizing that they are now worth more to each other turned in than the original money was ever worth. The tension reaches a breaking point when Jimmy calls Tom one last time, desperate for the ransom. Tom refuses to back down, leading to a heated argument where both men exchange death threats. In a fit of rage and frustration, Jimmy fires a shot into the air while on the phone, making Tom, Kate, and the FBI believe that Sean has been unalived. Kate is completely destroyed, blaming Tom's gamble for their son's death, while Tom sits in a state of silent, heartbroken shock. Believing the game is over, the crew prepares to leave their hideout to dispose of the evidence. However, Jimmy, ever the predator, decides to betray his own team to claim the hero's mantle. Using his status as a police officer, he calls in a discovery of the location. As Clark and the others try to flee in a van, Jimmy intercepts them. A violent shootout erupts. Jimmy takes out his accomplices, but Maris manages to shoot Jimmy in the shoulder before he finishes her off. When the police arrive, they find Jimmy holding a blindfolded Sean, appearing to be the brave officer who rescued him. Agent Hawkins delivers the miracle news to the Mullins, who rush to the scene. In a tearful reunion, they embrace their son. Still unaware of the truth, a grateful Tom approaches the injured Jimmy as he's being loaded into an ambulance and thanks him for his incredible bravery. While Sean recovers in the hospital, he remains traumatized, unable to be in the dark. Meanwhile, Jimmy is busy feeding the police a fabricated story, painting himself as the heroic detective who cracked the case. His true motive, however, is to collect the $4 million reward he earned by betraying his own team. A few days later, Jimmy shows up at Tom's house unannounced, eager to collect his money earlier than scheduled. As Tom prepares to write the check, Jimmy curiously asks why Tom refused to pay the original ransom. Tom coldly replies that the person responsible was human trash, who never intended to return his son. Just as Tom is about to sign, he notices Sean's reaction. The boy is visibly terrified of Jimmy. This, combined with Jimmy's specific choice of words and tone, makes everything click for Tom. He realizes the hero standing in his living room is actually the mastermind. Tom tries to hand him a fake check to buy time, but Jimmy sees through the ruse immediately. Realizing his cover is blown, Jimmy pulls his weapon on Tom, turning the victory celebration into a deadly final confrontation. Jimmy threatens to harm Tom's family if he doesn't get the money immediately. In a final high-stakes gamble, Tom convinces Jimmy that the only way to get the $4 million without raising suspicion is to go to the bank together to wire the funds. Jimmy agrees, but as they head out, he demands a private jet to escape to Mexico. Tom pretends to call his assistant to arrange the flight, but he is actually calling Agent Hawkins, Looney, using coded language to signal that he is in danger. When they arrive at the bank, the scene is chaotic. Unaware of the truth, the public and local police cheer for Jimmy, taking photos of the hero and the billionaire. Tom successfully wires the money to Jimmy's account, but as they exit, the FBI and police surround them. Realizing he's been trapped, Jimmy pulls his weapon and a violent shootout begins. Jimmy takes down 2 officers and engages in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle with Tom. As the fight reaches its peak, both men end up pointing weapons at each other. Kate, Agent Hawkins, and a sea of officers arrive, screaming for Tom to drop his gun. Tom chooses to trust the law and lowers his weapon, but a desperate Jimmy pulls a backup gun from an ankle holster to finish Tom off. Before he can fire, Agent Hawkins fires a lethal shot, ending Jimmy's life and the nightmare for the Mullen family.